Hello, and welcome to this Smiths Interconnect webinar. My name is Katie, and I will be your Global Spec moderator, and I would like to review a few housekeeping items with you before we begin. Please take a moment to familiarize yourself with the operation of the user interface for today's webinar. The large window with the heading Presentation in the upper left is the primary window for today's webinar. Just to the right of the main presentation window is the Speaker Bio window, with background information on today's presenters. Just below that is the Q&A window. At any time during the presentation, you can enter a question into the box in the lower section of the window and click Submit. Your question will be placed in the queue to address when we get to the Q&A session. At the bottom of your screen, you will see additional buttons to enhance your webinar experience. To see what a particular button does, just place your mouse pointer over it and a tooltip will appear with the description of the button's function. Now let me introduce today's presenters. With us today we have Daniel Ratzlaff. Dan is the Global Product Line Manager of Medical at Smiths Interconnect. Joining him today is Dominic Propasorn. Dominic is a design engineer at Smiths Interconnect. To read more about either of our presenters today, please look at the Speaker Bio window right next to the main presentation window. And with that, I'd like to pass things along to Dan to get this webinar started. So Dan, go right ahead.
All right. Well, hello all, and thank you all for joining today. As said, I am Dan Ratzlaff. I'm the Global Product Manager for Smiths Interconnect, covering medical applications. Today, we're going to start with a quick overview of the evolution of Smiths Interconnect, especially with a focus on medical connectivity. Explored the Hypergrip series, including the standard, flex, and disposable variants, and then a quick set of real-world examples on situations where you and how you would use the Hypergrip connectors in your solutions. And then last, we'll have an open Q&A session. So first, let's start things off with a quick poll question.
Okay, thank you so much, Dan. So our first polling question today, while designing a system for safety-critical applications, how important is the choice of reliable connector to the overall architecture of the design? So we have some options here for you. Extremely important, hence considered at early stages of the design. Somewhat important and hence considered at mid stages of the design. Or not important and hence considered at later stages of the design. So I'm going to give everybody a few more seconds to put in their answers for the polling question. All right, I'm going to read the polling question one more time. While designing a system for safety-critical applications, how important is the choice of a reliable connector to the overall architecture of the design? So like I said, I'll give everybody a couple more seconds to put in their answer for the polling question. Your feedback is important to us, so we appreciate you participating in our question today. All right, everybody, just a couple more seconds to put in your answers. All right, so we have a good amount of answers submitted, Dan, so I'm going to push us out to our results at this moment. So here's our results, Dan, back to you.
All right, thank you all very much for commenting on this. As expected, safety is probably one of the most important things that we do run into with this device, so it is good to see people engage earlier in it with our applications, again, being medical. The earlier the better on these things. So for those that say, kind of considered late at the end stage of the game, want to check with us a little bit earlier because sometimes these things can be a little trickier than expected with connectivity in medical. So next we'll start with a quick video, kind of give a quick overview of a introduction to our connector series, our uses, go from there. All right. So thank you for sitting with us in that video. And let's have a quick talk about how Smith can provide a competitive advantage in the applications we serve. First off, we have a superior contact technologies, whether that be our spring probes, edge card, screw machined, or hypertack hyperboloid contacts. Smith has industry-leading reliability in our contact systems. We are also constantly adapting our product to meet the needs of new and emerging technologies, ensuring we have a solution ready to support new and emerging therapies and the devices that enable them. Lastly, we have an experienced team of engineers that understand how to design and build superior interconnect solutions that ensure optimal performance, durability, and safety. We can be the experts in connectivity, so you don't have to be. As you can see, to the quick list of applications, you can find Smith's connectors. It ranges from a wide range of surgical systems such as robots, energy generators, to large imaging systems such as X-rays and MRIs, all the way down to disposable catheters and probes. So in general, Smiths has a solution no matter how complex your application. Now for a quick overview of our portfolio. First, we have the Hypergrip series, the focus of today's talk. It is our premium push-pull connector. I won't go into too much detail here since this is the focus for today. The next we have our D series. It is a simple, rugged connector series that supports hybrid power, signal, and coax technologies with an easy-to-use and intuitive mating system. It comes in a disposable and autoclave-compatible version. And lastly, we have the Eclipta. The Eclipta is a high-cycle edge card connection. By high cycle, I mean at least 10,000 cycles, that uses PCB interfaces on both ends, supports sterilization and disposable applications, and allows for custom-use PCBs, which allows for active and passive components and potentially the elimination of terminations completely by utilizing, your own PCB. All right, so now we have an overview of our connectors and our medical solutions. Let's get to the Hypergrip series a little bit more. The Hypergrip series is a patented and proven high reliability circular connector. It is specifically designed with the medical market in mind. And throughout the years since the Hypergrip series was launched in the early 2000s, we've had a solid market response where we were able to launch a product that had the reputation for its reliability, versatility, its custom keying system, simple foolproof mating, and its compliance to many regulatory requirements such as fingerproofing, flammability, and the support for sterilization. Today, the market requires flexibility, and the Hypergrip series has evolved to support that. With the standard high reliability version with over 20,000 mating cycles, the Flex with over 2,000 cycles, and the disposable Hypergrip plug for limited use applications. Next, we'll have another quick overview that kind of gets a little bit more into the graphics of the Hypergrip series. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the value propositions of the Hypergrip series after that video, starting with the standard and Flex solutions. We have an improved value alignment to the market with the use of our hyperboloid contact system for high cycle life applications and the mid-range contact system for applications that require fewer cycle lives but still need that premium look and the premium electrical performance. The Hypergrip series also allows for reduced inventory and lead times with our patented keying system. It allows for 6 different keying configurations for each insulator. It also has an increased reliability and chemical resistance, including support for at least 20 autoclave cycles, ethylene oxide, Sterad, VHP, and most common cleaning agents such as Sidex, due to the use of its engineering-grade polymers. As mentioned before, Hypergrip has a pedigree in medical, so it also offers a reduced risk of failure for device qualification due to its existing qualifications for the connector, again, such as 60601 compliant fingerproofing. We also offer an improved total cost of ownership with the use of crimp and poke contacts, which are easier to use and require less training versus traditional solder nest contacts. Last but not least, the Hypergrip offers an improved value for the final device with its premium look and feel. Foolproof mating, ease of cleaning, and smooth contours, which reduce the risk of cut or torn gloves in an operating room. Next, we'll take a look at the value propositions for our disposable side. Again, because it's a little bit different being a disposable. Like all Hypergrip connectors, we use crimp and poke contacts, allowing for faster, easier installation, giving us, again, an improved value alignment. We also support the reduced skew due to, again, we are backwards compatible with our plugs, allowing you, again, to use any of the backwards, forgive me, use any of the keying systems on the traditional Hypergrip. We also have an improved total cost of ownership, again, back to that crimp and poke contacts versus the nested. It's much easier, faster to use, and easier to automate for high volume. And we also support high volume processes such as overmolding. We have a reduced risk. Again, we maintain all of the electrical and qualifications of the existing Hypergrip series. And we have the increased reliability, which isn't necessarily so important on a disposable plug. What is important is its support of the disposable side, or the reusable side, forgive me. With that backwards compatibility, we have a device that can last much longer in the field and yet still support your disposable applications. We also have an increased improved value. Sorry, one second, I'm having noise on my phone, forgive me. Last but not least, we offer an improved value for the finished device by bringing premium look and feel, foolproof mating, ease of cleaning, and a reduced chance of cut gloves. All right, before we get into the technical details, I'm going to go over quickly a table of applications on how the Hypergrip series can support you in the field. So first, starting at the top, for the patient monitoring, the Hypergrip series has you covered in all applications, whether that be high cycle life device to disposable connector, a low cycle life device to device connector, or a disposable, which is probably the most important connection on a patient monitoring device. Next, for electrosurgical and then endoscopic tools, again, we have you covered with everything from the multiple reuse and sterilizable applications down to the disposable connectors. One thing of note, since the disposable connector is backwards compatible with the standard Hypergrip receptacle, you can have a single-use and multi-use device support in the same connection. For catheters, again, all are usable solutions and of equal importance, as with the standard Hypergrip being on the applications with reusable cabling and the mid-range and disposables for single use and for the end connections to the catheters. Home healthcare and portable therapeutics both have an even split, with the disposable being used for single patient applications, patches, monitors, etc., and the standard being used for devices or device-to-device connections or device-to-power. The mid-range is also usable here where cost is a concern and cycle life is lower since it's a device that goes into the field that may break, again, due to being handled by the patient. Last but not least is imaging, where the mid-range and the disposable are not quite a viable option due to the extremely high cycle life. Now, in imaging, just to be clear, we are talking MRI and X-ray applications. So you're probably tired of hearing me talk, so I am going to pass on over to my engineer, Dominic, to cover a little bit more into the technical.
All right, thanks, Dan. I'm Dominic Rapazon. I'm a senior design engineer here with Smiths Medical. So going over technical feature on the Hypergrip and Hypergrip Flex. Both of these series are very intuitive to use. Their innovative keying system in the connectors allow for 6 keying configuration using the same components, which help reduce the lead time and inventory. So basically, you have the insulator that's nested inside the housing, and that insulator can be installed in specific angle to produce different keying layout. Okay. These connectors are available with 5 coloring options, making visual recognition effortless and instantaneous. They also have great aesthetic and user-friendly design. The sleek body and light color body fit well with medical equipment. And connector body also has smooth contour, as Dan mentioned earlier. There's no sharp edge in the design. That allows for easy cleaning and preventing cut or puncture to surgical gloves during the handling. The mechanism in this connector are push and pull, which allow for easy one-hand mating or unmating of the connectors. The Hypergrip and Hypergrip Flex medical connector also feature ingress protection under mated condition, flammability rating of UL94 V0 rated. It is also IEC 60601-1 fingerproof. They can be sterilized using autoclave, ETO, VHP, or steroid. It can also handle high temperature processing up to 185 degrees Celsius. And the component has integrated cable strain relief. The EMI RFI shielding is available for both of these connectors. With this option, the plastic shell has internal shield providing non-conductive touch surfaces for user and patient safety. The internal shield extends from the cable shield to the system, effective up to 3 GHz or 50 decibel max attenuation. Besides the standard contact pin technologies, Hypergrip connector also support other contact technologies such as fiber optic for application requiring high-speed signal transmission, Spring Pro for high density and high cycle life application over 10,000 mating cycles, coaxial for low VSWR up to 40 GHz. Mid-range contact also utilize clip and barrel system for application require up to 2,000 cycle life. A bit more on the Hypergrip disposable series connector. This connector series is designed to be an alternative solution for customers that do not need reusability in their connector. The plug is the cost-effective version of Hypergrip SG2 and SG4 plug, but it still maintains critical characteristics such as quantity of contacts, the size, key electrical performances such as IR and dielectric breakdown voltage. Those are all maintained from the standard Hypergrip and Hypergrip Flex series. Other key features in Hypergrip disposable plug are the modular 4-piece design. The crimp and poke contact pin allow for easy termination and installation. The installation of these contact pins can be done using the same insertion tool for standard Hypergrip. And the gold plating on contact pin is optimized for disposable application. The design of disposable plug also support for high volume overmolding for low production costs. The design characteristic of Hypergrip connector that customer likes and accustomed also maintain the disposable plug series. So it maintains the keying different configuration. You have the 5 coloring options. Also user-friendly design with smooth contour that is safe for surgical gloves. The disposable plug utilize passive latching instead of active latching. That will still allow for quick one-hand mating and unmating of the connector. Similar to Hypergrip and Hypergrip Flex series, the disposable series is also a medical grade connector that is rated for UL94 V0 flammability, IEC 60601-1 fingerproofing, and biocompatibility. In terms of differences, the disposable plug is rated at APX4 under medic condition, and that requires the connector to be back-potted or overmold. And the maximum processing temperature is rated at 90 degrees C. So a little bit more on the construction of the disposable plug. As mentioned earlier, the design of the plug feature modular design with 4 pieces. So with that in mind, we have reduced multiple plastic components in Hypergrip and Hypergrip Flex series into one single plastic insulator, as you see here. The 4 main components of the plug assembly is the insulator, the 0.4 millimeter contact pin, the O-ring, and medical grade silicone plug body. This design features the flexibility which allows for customer to purchase only what they need. So for example, if the customer want to go with the overmold, the customer can purchase the kit without the silicone plug. So we come with these 3 components here, the O-ring, the insulator, and the pin. The back section of the insulator is designed to support overmolding. With flanges and simple geometry, the overmold material can flow easily and secure to the insulator. All right, and Katie, I think we have the polling question coming up. With that said, I'll pass it on to you.
All right, thanks, Dominic. So our next polling question for everyone to participate in, if you can. So the question is, which of the discussed aspects is the most important in your design for your healthcare application? So we have some options here for you. First one, compact size of the connector. Second one, the durability or cycle life of the connector. Third one is compliance to various medical standards. And the fourth one is EMI or RFI protection. So again, if you guys can submit your answer, your feedback and participation is always of value to us. So I'm going to read the polling question one more time and give you a little bit more time to answer. So it's asking which of the discussed aspects is the most important in your design for your healthcare application. So as I mentioned, I'll give you guys a few more seconds to put in your answers. And I'll read those answers one more time just to give you another minute. The compact size of the connector, the durability or cycle life of the connector, compliance to various medical standards, and the fourth option is the EMI RFI protection. So, another second or two to put in your final answers, everyone. Thank you for your participation. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to pass it back to you to push out the results of the poll. So here's what we got so far. So Dan and Dominic, back out to you.
Thank you very much. And no, this is great to see, and thank you again for responding. It is always interesting to see how These balance out different times we've asked this question between the durability, the cycle life, but naturally what always comes through is compliance to the various standards in medical. All right, so we've gone over a quick overview and everything of that nature. We did have a quick table at the beginning saying, which application, which connector works in which application. But let's take a look at some real-life examples to make it, again, a little bit more real. So our first use case is a high cycle life device to a sterilizable cable that extends into the sterile field to provide the connection from that device to a catheter, a tool, anything of that nature. For the device side connection, again, we'd recommend the Hypergrip, the standard Hypergrip receptacle and plug for these applications. The standard Hypergrip receptacle provides that high reliability, high cycle life connection with that premium look and feel on the device. It also ensures compliance and a long field life. So basically the connector won't cause you any issues in your testing, especially during the design phases, and you'll keep your device in the field much longer without maintenance. Then we'd also have the standard Hypergrip plug, which provides that ergonomic, easy-to-use connector that supports autoclave sterilization and that low cost of ownership assembly. Again, a robust connector that provides an easy-to-assemble, easy-to-use, and high survivability for autoclave and everything else that comes with being in an OR or supporting a medical device. That combination of the plug and receptacle offers you, again, that industry-leading cycle life and robustness, the reliability, and that support for the harsh environment. It ensures both the device and the cable stay in the field longer with less maintenance. This leads to a lower cost per therapy due to longer lifespans on the cable and lower maintenance on the primary device. Next application is a disposable one. So let's take a look at a high cycle disposable to a primary device. This would be an application like a patient monitor where you'd have a device that cycles every day, multiple times a day. But on the other end is a single-use device or single patient device. For this, again, we'd select the Hypergrip receptacle and the disposable plug. Again, the receptacle provides that high cycle life, the robust connection, which is especially important for a device like this because it can get cycled many, many times per day. The Hypergrip disposable provides that foolproof mate and demate, that simplified design, so there's less to go wrong and less to throw away every time. That low cost of ownership and that support for high volume processes such as overmolding, again, because these things are made for every patient, every day, single use. When used together, this Hypergrip receptacle improves that field life, while the Hypergrip disposable provides that low cost per therapy without compromising electrical performance. Or simply put, the standard receptacle keeps your device in the field longer, and the disposable connector gives you exactly what you need with absolutely nothing more, which is especially important in devices that are single use or single patient. And last but not least, let's look at the bigger picture or a bigger picture. Back to a situation like case one. This time, let's think about it as the full cable. Cables don't always have to use a single connector series. As we talked earlier, Smith has multiple options to applications. So in this time, we're going to take a look at an extension cable like you would see in electrophysiology, EP mapping, things of that nature, where you have an extension cable out to a catheter. The standard Hypergrip series on one end would provide that high cycle life, the reliability, and that premium look. And it would also, again, ensure that your cable has a high level of reusability. The Ecliptus series, being used to the catheter, specifically using the reusable plug and disposable receptacle that we have, provides a solution tuned to applications that utilize PCBs. By allowing customers to use custom boards, the Ecliptus potentially eliminates all the terminations inside the catheter. You can just continue your PC board into the connector. And this also gives you plenty of room for active or passive components on the cable, improving cost per therapy by driving costs out of the catheter. This interconnect can provide the optimal solution, or using one or several of our medical grade connectors by choosing the right connectivity solution for your medical application. So next, let's move on into the Q&A section. So I think we already have a couple questions coming into the box.
Yes, thank you so much. So we are going to move into our Q&A right now. So Dan and Dominic, thank you so much for that great presentation portion. And as you mentioned, we do have a couple questions that have come in from our attendees already, so we are going to move into answering those. For our attendees, if you have a question today, please enter them into the Q&A window and click the submit button. We are going to do our best to get through all the questions today. So our first one today, guys, this person is just asking, what is hyperbolic technology?
All right, Dom, I'll take that one. So the hyperbolic technology is our hypertack contact system. And what that means is, in a lot of other contact systems, you have a bent piece of metal that comes in and makes contact with the pin for on the socket side. Our sockets are a little bit different. They use a conformal wire basket instead of just a bent piece of metal. What this does is it gives you incredibly good electrical performance, great wiping against clearing debris, or unfortunately, like in a medical environment, it gets biologicals, other things like that off of the clean electrical connection every single time, while still providing really, really high cycle life. Like we've said, our connectors are over 20,000 cycles, and it also leads to a lower insertion and extraction force.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that answer. For all the attendees, if you have a question, you can use your Q&A box. I also just wanted to point out in our webinar console today all of the great resources we have listed. So right underneath your Q&A window, we do have our resource list. So now would be the time to download some of those items before we wrap the webinar in a little while. So we've got all of those PDFs listed in there. If you click on them, you can download them on your way out today. So I just wanted to point those out. So gentlemen, our next question, how does the latching system work in the Hypergrip connectors?
Hey Dan, I can take this one. So with the latching on the Hypergrip and Hypergrip Flex series, basically the housing will feature like two-piece plastic design with one overlapping each other. So as you pull the connector backward, the top piece would come into contact with the bottom piece and press down the latch. And that's what we identify as active latching. And on the disposable series, since it features single-piece plastic design insulator, as you push the connector in or pull the connector out, the latch would interact with the latch pocket inside the receptacle on the mating counterpart, and that's what we describe as the passive latching.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that answer. So another question from an attendee here. What's the retention force of Hypergrip disposable connector?
Okay, I can take that one too. The retention force on the Hypergrip disposable connector varies due to we have two different sizes. On the SG2, the extraction force is at around 2.5 to 3 pounds, and for the SG4, it's about 3.5 to 4.5 pounds. That is in line with the disposable market. And the cable retention force is over 7 pounds for both design.
Okay, thank you so much for that answer. So if any attendees have any questions today, go ahead and place them into the Q&A window and click that submit button. So we do have one more question left today, guys, so we're going to do this one. If any attendees have anything to add, please do so now. So gentlemen, what wire sizes do you support? And do you support multiple wire types like Cox or twisted pairs?
Yep, I can take that one then. The size that the Hypergrip connectors support mainly the 26 to 28 gauge wire, and multiple type of wire can be terminated to the contact. You can have stranded wire, which is suitable for crimp termination. You can also do solid wire, which can utilize the auto cup system that we have in the contact.
Yeah, and Don, maybe one thing that I can add there is that we also have solder cup terminations available if required, as well as PC tail. So again, we do have a significant amount of flexibility in what sort of terminations that we can support, including customs if need be. Because I know some applications we've done have involved like right angle PC tail, things of that nature. So it is something, again, we can look to support.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, thank you both so much for that answer. So those are all the attendee questions that we have at this moment. So for our attendees, if you think of any questions you'd like to ask Dan or Dom after today's webinar, it will be available on demand. You can always come back and ask any questions during that time. So, gentlemen, we are going to start to wrap the webinar up right now. I want to say a huge thank you to both of you for a great presentation today, for sharing some of those video demos, for asking our polling questions, and for answering a few of our attendees' questions. So thank you both so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and a huge thank you to all of the audience members today for being part of this event. You are going to be receiving an email from us with a link to the on-demand version of this presentation. You will be able to come back and watch this again or even share it with colleagues. As I mentioned, you do have some resources there listed, so please take a moment to download anything that interests you before you leave today. And lastly, please take a moment to complete a survey which will appear on your screen at the end of this webinar. For anybody watching this on demand, you're going to find the survey located along the bottom of your attendee console in the survey widget. Again, thank you all for taking time to attend this webinar event. Take care, and we will speak with you soon.